I'm Mark Matsumoto and welcome to my Tokyo kitchen. Today I want to show you how to make the best Japanese Hamburg steak. I know it's kind of a bold claim, but I've been working on this for a long time. And today I'm going to show you 3 culinary tricks that make these next level juicy and flavorful. The first trick is from my gyoza recipe, which uses vegetables to make the meat juicy. The second trick is to add gelatin. The extra collagen thickens the juices just enough so they don't all leak out. The last trick is to add an ingredient that you probably already have in your fridge. I'm also going to show you an easy 4-ingredient Hamburg steak sauce that tastes like a demi-glace from a fancy restaurant in Japan. Alright, let's take a look at our ingredients. For our vegetables, I'm using a medium onion and half a head of cabbage. We don't need all of this, but since we're going to be grating the veggies, you want something to hang on to. We're going to steam these with a half teaspoon of salt and 3 tablespoons of sake. For the meat, I've got 500 grams of lean ground beef. This is going to give us a more meaty texture and flavor, but it's still going to be super juicy. The other ingredients for our patties are a half cup of panko, 3 tablespoons of milk, 2 tablespoons of a pantry staple that I'll tell you about later, 10 grams of powdered gelatin, and some black pepper and nutmeg. For our Hamburg steak sauce, I've got a 1/4 cup of red wine, 3 tablespoons of ketchup, 1 tablespoon of oyster sauce, and 1 tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce. The first thing I'm going to do is grate up 150 grams of onion on the large holes of a cheese grater. The goal here is to get the onions pretty small without pureeing them. If you're pressed for time, you could also pulse this in a food processor. Next, I'm going to grate in 100 grams of cabbage. Again, the goal here is to shred the veggies into small pieces without pureeing them. If you're wondering why cabbage, it's because cabbage contains a ton of amino acids, which is going to add umami to our hamburger steaks, along with some natural sweetness. Okay, let's get this onto the stove, and I'm going to add the sake and the salt. Stir the ingredients together and level off the top before covering this with a lid and turning on the stove to high heat. Once this comes to a full boil, turn down the heat to maintain a gentle stream of steam escaping from the lid and set the timer for 5 minutes. While we let that steam, I want to take a moment to thank all of you who've signed up for my weekly recipes over at marksrecipes.com. If you haven't been there yet, I post a new recipe every Wednesday, like this wasabi shrimp salad, this kimchi mapo tofu, or these ridiculously crispy oven-baked curry wings, so go check it out. Alright, let's get back to our Hamburg steak. Okay, our timer's up, so let's open the lid and give it a stir. As you can see, there's still some liquid left in the pan, so I'm gonna turn up the heat and burn off this excess liquid. By the way, this mixture is gonna smell pretty bad at this stage due to all the volatile sulfur compounds in the onion and cabbage. But don't worry, it's not gonna affect the Hamburg steak. Once there's no more liquid pooling at the bottom of the pan, but the veggies are still juicy, take them off the heat and transfer them to a bowl to cool. Spreading them around the bowl will help speed this up. Once your vegetable mixture is cool, add the panko, milk, and our secret ingredient, mayonnaise. I know it sounds kinda crazy, but there's a good reason for it, which I'll explain later. I'm also gonna add the gelatin and crack in a 1/4 teaspoon of freshly ground black pepper. Then I'm gonna grate in about an 1/8 teaspoon of nutmeg. Now we want to thoroughly mix this together. This mixture is called a panade, and it's gonna do several magical things for our Hamburg steak. First, the panko and milk interrupt the coagulation of the protein in the beef, keeping the patties nice and tender. Secondly, the vegetables provide a reservoir of umami-rich juices, while the collagen in the gelatin is gonna thicken them up enough so they don't leak out while the Hamburg steaks cook. Finally, mayonnaise is an emulsion of egg and oil, which is gonna add richness to our lean ground beef. Think of it like a moisturizer for the meat. By the way, I'm not a huge fan of mayo, but you won't taste it in the final dish. Once the mixture is uniform in color, I'm gonna add our ground beef. Normally, people use their hands to knead the mixture together, but I like mixing this with chopsticks. The reason for this is that I want to leave the crumbles of beef intact while marbling in our panade. This preserves a crumbly texture of the beef while creating a matrix of juicy flavor around each piece of meat. Once the panade is evenly distributed, stop mixing. To shape these into even patties, you ideally want to weigh out all of the meat mixture and divide by the number of patties you want to make. I usually do 6 patties, so I'm aiming for about 140 grams per patty, but this is going to vary a little depending on how far you cook down your veggies. Now I'm going to shape it into a ball and toss the patty back and forth between my hands like I'm playing catch. This forces out any air from the patty, which can cause your Hamburg steak to crack. Once the surface of your patty is nice and smooth, gently rotate the patty to give it a nice oval shape. Now I'm gonna repeat this with the remaining meat mixture. When you're done, you should have 6 beautiful patties that are roughly the same size. Okay, let's fry these up. You want to use a large frying pan over medium heat that'll fit as many of the hamburger steaks as possible without overcrowding the pan. Add 2 teaspoons of vegetable oil, and then arrange the patties around the pan. By the way, I know someone's gonna ask, but I highly recommend using a non-stick pan for this. These Hamburg steaks are soft and the gelatin makes them sticky, which is a recipe for disaster in a regular steel pan. Now we want to let these get nice and browned on one side. This will take about 3 minutes. Okay, this is looking beautiful, so let's flip these over. This brown crust is gonna add a ton of flavor to our sauce, so you want to take it just shy of being burned. Now let's let this side brown for about another 2 minutes. Once you've got a browned crust on the second side, it's time to steam our Hamburg steaks. Add a 1/3 cup of water, cover the pan with the lid, and set a timer for 6 minutes. You'll want to adjust the heat up or down to maintain a gentle stream of steam escaping from the lid. Okay, our timer's up, so let's open this up. Wow, look at that! And words can't describe just how good these smell. Alright, these are done, so let's transfer them onto a plate. To make our Hamburg steak sauce, I'm gonna add the red wine to the juices in the pan. Turn up the heat to burn off the alcohol, and when the wine starts to thicken like this, add the ketchup, oyster sauce, and Worcestershire sauce. Stir this together and reduce the sauce until it's thick and shiny, and our Hamburg steaks are ready to serve. Alright, let's pour some of that sauce onto a Hamburg steak and give it a try. This smells indescribably good, so let's try it out. Itadakimasu. Alright. Oh man, the fork just sinks right through it, and I can already see the juices gushing out. The moment you bite into it, this Hamburg steak gushes out rich, savory juices that just flood your mouth with umami. And because you haven't overmixed the patty, there's distinct layers that give this a satisfying, meaty texture. And of course, there's our Hamburg steak sauce, which strikes the perfect balance between tangy, sweet, savory, and spicy. It makes me want to eat this with a bowl of rice. I've been working on this recipe for many years, and it's honestly one of the best Hamburg steaks I've ever had, so I hope you'll give it a try. Well, I'm gonna go add the rest of these with some rice, but check out this playlist for more Japanese comfort food, and I'll catch you in the next one.